Hi, everyone, from me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za. It's the biggest Saturday of the year, make no mistake. It's the Hollywoodbets Durban July. We've also got the start of the Tour de France. We've got Test match rugby. What a time to be alive. Let's introduce the panel who are going to take us through the Durban July field, see if we can find some betting value. I'm going to start top right there with Chris Sturdy, my partner, of course, on Good for the Game, Mackham on the forum. Chris, excitement building in the Sturdy household, no doubt. You've got a share in a Royal Victory who ran third last year, and I see somewhere around 20-1 in the betting.
Yeah, Brent, we'll come on to his chances later on, but we're getting very, very excited for race day. Great to have another crack at the July. It's going to be tough, but let's see if we go through the card and pick out some of the runners that are going to be finished prominently.
Well, I can tell you that behind Chris's picture, there's a picture of a horse, and that is Royal Victory. Unfortunately, we can't see the head there, but one head we can see, and it's looking better and better every year. Let me tell you, like fine wine. I think it's got something to do with the fact that he got married a couple, actually almost 3 years ago now. Hilt, great to have you on the show, and I can see you're excited for this one.
Yeah, Brent, very 32nd year that I've been involved in the industry, so this is sort of my 32nd July. So yeah, from very small sort of beginnings when I was a cashier at Marshall's World of Sport in Umhlanga to today, there's been big changes. But no matter what happens, this is still the number one day of the year.
That's it. Punters come out of the woodwork here. Your once-a-year punter comes out for the July. You know, the other big horse races, the Met, the Summer Cup, and they are all growing nicely, in my opinion. But there's something about the July which just takes the cake as far as your sort of once-a-year punter goes in particular. Just a reminder, you can go on to goodforthegame.co.za. We've got plenty of Durban July coverage there, and also got some links to the sponsor Hollywoodbets website if you do want to go on there and open an account. Right, gents, we're going to get straight to the action. I'm going to share my screen here, and I've got Hollywood up here. What I think we'll do is run through the first few on the cards, and then so I'll take you through each of the first horses, and then we can look down and you can let me know if you fancy anything else. I'm going to start with the favorite. It's quite a firm favorite here, trading at just over 14-10. And that is 8-18. And I'll start with you, Hilton. A lot of support for this favorite, obviously, as suggested by the betting, but are we going to try and beat it?
Yeah, Brent, I think I don't think anything much more needs to be said about how good he is. And if everything was equal and the race panned out and everything went according to plan, I think he is very, very, very hard to beat. But this is the July, and nobody wants to wait a year and then back a 14-10 shot. There was obviously a lot of controversy leading up to the race. You know, up until sort of 3 weeks ago, Justin didn't even know if he was going to run the horse. 2 months ago, he wasn't going to run. Then he was a 80-20 and then a 50-50. And I think once the Snaith stable saw sort of what was left in the race, he was just like, well, I'm going to take my chances. So, and talking about taking chances, those who took the 8-1, 9-2, 4-1 early, obviously smiling now.
That's it. Although at the end of the day, and it's always a good feeling as a punter when you grab the value, so to speak, like the 8-1. But ultimately, unless you're trading on it, the horse has got to arrive in order to collect. But certainly in a good position there. I'll go for Chris now. His opinion on the favorite. Obviously, the horse to beat, Chris.
Yeah, I would agree. The horse to beat. You know, a couple of grade ones already in the bag, and the plus points. The fact that they've decided to run, because as Hilton mentioned, it was in some doubt whether he was going to participate in the race at all. And they took that right down to almost the last day, I think, of declarations. And they decided, no, we're going to go with it. So that's obviously a plus point. And then when you get jockey Richard Ferree making comments like it's one of the best 3 horses that he's ever sat on, then obviously punters latch onto that. And hence we've got 14-10. In my opinion, Brent, you're either in his camp and you know, you banker him in everything. After that, if you're not in his camp and he's carrying 57 kgs for the 3-year-old in a race that can be very rough, he's drawn bang in the middle, then, you know, where do you go after that? And my short list quickly became a long list.
Yeah, Brent,
yeah, and we're going to go.
I definitely think the 14-10 doesn't represent value now. Is he going to be sort of the majority of everybody's multiples, maybe pick 6 bankers? But like Chris said, everybody wants to win the July. So he's drawn 11. He's you don't know what's going to happen on the outside. We obviously go through some of the horses with pace. Some of them are going to come across because they've got to get handy from wide draws. Others are going to sort of hang back from the inside draws. And, Richard's going to have to do one of those Richard rides. If he's going to win it, he's going to have to come probably 5-6 wide into the straight. And I can't see him finishing down the inside. Even though he tends to hang on down the inside, I think he's going to have to look sort of the second half of the outside to find clear traffic.
Right, we're going to go on to the second horse in the betting now, Oriental Charm. Just a reminder, we are also going to have a show where we go through the entire race card. And Chris has also gone through that card already, and there is an article on Good for the Game with basically a bet in every race. So there is a link down to that in the description box below, or you can just go directly onto Good for the Game. But Chris, let's start with you on this one, Oriental Charm. Second favourite here at a shade over 6-1.
Yeah, won this race last year as a 3-year-old with 53 kgs. No 3-year-old allowance now, 12 months down the line. Has had an excellent preparation, including behind 8 on 18 in Cape Town, and then cracking run last time out in a Grade 1. I think a big runner, even though a lot more weight than this year, and number 1 draw will help. Going to be up there with the pace. So I don't see any hard luck stories in the running with this one. I think, he's absolutely primed to run a very big race and defense of its title.
Hilton?
Yeah, Brent, you can't fault his form, can you? He's super classy. I mean, he's the defending champion. The two things that kind of concern me is obviously the top weight. It's very difficult to win the July carrying 60. The second thing is racing purists out there, myself included, are going to look at his last run. He came back from a rest. It wasn't an easy run. It was a very, very hard run. I mean, in my opinion, I thought he was going to sort of be tucked towards the back of the field and run on. It was a very hard race. He went flat out from the start. He just got caught on the line. So there are going to be questions on whether the second run back is going to be a factor. I'm sure the Crawford stable have prepared him so that they've obviously worked out the niggles and everything after that race. But there's just something in the back of my mind that I've always believed in the second run back. A lot of people say it's a myth. Chris, I don't know how you feel, but I just think that run was very hard. It took a lot out of him. And if he suffers any ill effects of that second run back, he's just not going to have that sort of final spurt in the last 200 meters.
Yeah, I must say, when I followed racing, I always remember, because I don't follow it that closely these days, that second run after rest. Chris, what are your views on that?
Not really, Brent. No, I'm not really a believer, unless there is a very short time gap between second runs and third runs, and I think it can depend on the horse. But the Crawford yard, they've done this before, including last year in prepping horses perfectly for the Grade 1. I think they'll have him spot on. Right,
Hilton, back to you. Third in the betting, Immediate Edge. There's a 3-year-old carrying 53 kilograms and drawn right next to the favorite in 10. Just over 6-1 as well.
Who's going with this?
Hilt? Oh, you might be mute here, Hilt. Chris, let me get you. Yeah. You get us going on this one. I think we may have lost Hilton.
You were just breaking up a bit.
Okay, I think we got Hilton back. I'd be interested in to see what Hilton thinks about Immediate Edge, Brent, because I'm a little bit on the fence about this one's chances.
Right, Hilton, what do you reckon?
Chris, I was going to actually throw it over to you and Sam. I was going to throw it over to Chris and Sam a little bit on the fence.
We are on the same page with one later on as well, with which we'll come on to on the other video. Yeah, Immediate Edge. Look, he's been well supported in the market. Mike de Kock, low weight. They were very, very keen to get him in the July, and he had to win. I think it was the Jubilee handicap, they call it, up at Turfentine, which he did as he pleased, and that's basically got him his run. I respect the connections and the positive comments that came from the stable after he'd won that Jubilee handicap. The previous form to me, and even maybe the form in terms of what he beat in the Jubilee, I'm not 100% convinced by. It's sort of one of those, I want to keep him on side, but he's further down my list of possible winners, than what he is in the outright betting there as joint second favourite.
I firmly believe that if he was from another stable, not the De Kock stable, he would probably be somewhere around the 20, 25 to 1 mark. But he's from the De Kock stable. They've been there, done that. A lot of people are saying he's under sufferance because of his merit rating. The truth is he actually hasn't been around long enough to build his merit rating. So if he wins it, he's going to win it on pure ability and not on the handicapping.
Right, guys, I see, we got another, those are all the horses in single figures. Now we've sort of moved to the Real Prince at sort of 11 and a half, what's that, at a sort of 11 and a half to 1 there. Was it? Yeah, 11 and a half to 1. So maybe, Chris, let me say this. If we take the horses perhaps down to Royal Victory, maybe just skim through. You don't have to go through all of them, but anything there catch your eye as a big run? And obviously we would like your comments on Royal Victory as well.
Okay, well, I think there's two that we can bracket together here in terms of the Real Prince and then also Gladiatorian. These two runners not proven over the 2200. That doesn't mean by any stretch that they're not going to stay 2200. And Dean Kanemayer, the Real Prince's trainer, has actually, said that he firmly believes that the distance is not going to be an issue. If both of them stay, then they can certainly be involved in the finish. I've got my doubts in terms of, I'd prefer to open my form guide and see that they've been running on over 2000 or actually run over 2200. So that would still be a question mark for me. But certainly the Real Prince has been the selection of Southpaw on our Good for the Game forum.
Okay.
No stranger to finding us big race winners. And I believe that it was probably only about, maybe less than 2 weeks ago, it was 12.5 to 1. 25 to 1. And now he's half that price, which also, tells a story. I don't know whether Southpaw got on at 25 to 1 or not. I can't remember. But he did label him a couple of weeks ago when we first started talking about the July. And this was the one that stood out for him. So respect there. And Gladiatorian, fantastic horse and a real good turn of foot. If he stays the trip and truly stays the trip, then, like the Real Prince, he could certainly be involved. Other than that, there was one that's been growing on me, which is On My Honor. And this is another one that's probably halved in price or more than halved in price over the last 10 days or so. And that was, there's true to people than me that watched the gallops last week and would pick up certain things. But this one certainly seemed to gallop well. Gets in with a very light weight, seems to be moving the right way and should appreciate the distance. So On My Honor, I have included in my selection, which is going to be a trifecta bet for the July. Salute, a little bit like Immediate Edge, I'm on the fence. I've heard one or two people that respected as shrewd July pickers, and they've got Salute on their radar. There are elements of his form that would put him in there. I wouldn't want to put anybody off, but I wasn't convinced enough to include. One that I really do like is number 2, Madison Valley, 20 to 1 shot. That's coming from 33 to 1. Again, impressed in the gallops. And my reasoning behind Madison Valley and thinking that this is a nice each way proposition is that ran an excellent 4th in the Summer Cup in November. And it takes some doing. Durban horse, like Royal Victory, it takes some doing to go up to Joburg, go up to altitude and run a cracker in a Grade 1. And Madison Valley that day was, I think it was drawn 18, certainly one of the widest gates anyway, and was a running on 4th from that horrible draw. And on those weights, he's got horses such as our boykie, Royal Victory, Atticus Finch, another one in that race, and he's got them held. This time he's drawn 2, another one that impressed with the gallops, and Gavin Lerena on board. So I think Madison Valley's got plenty going for it. My best shot, Difficult to say with this one, because Port Elizabeth horse, and I look at the form guide, I look at the collateral form, and with this horse having been campaigned in PE, there is no collateral form to go on against the Joburg horses, the Cape Town horses, the KZN horses. It done absolutely everything right in PE, and I think the trainers had some winners this Durban season with certainly one juvenile. Respect, but I haven't included that one. And then there's our boy. Do you want me to go on to Royal Victory now, Brent?
Yeah, let's talk Royal now. I just want to say that I was laughing because when you said my best shot, I wasn't looking at the screen, and I thought you were going to say my best shot is Royal Victory, and then I realized the horse's name is my best shot.
Yeah, beautiful.
shows you how closely I follow the old July. But yeah, tell us about Royal Victory, Chris. I've had some lovely wins on this horse. 60 or 70 to 1 in the Summer Cup a few years ago. I'll never forget catching that. What are we looking at here? 25 to 1, drawn outside, of course, right on the outside there at 17.
Yeah, well, he's actually been, I'd hesitate to say friendless in the market, but he's certainly drifted. He's probably about 16 to 1 if we'd have been recording this show a week or so ago. And then what happened last week, first of all, there was the draw, and yeah, horses have won it from very, very wide gates. No two ways about it. It can be done, but I would have been a lot happier if we'd have been drawn single figures. You know, if you'd have said pick your own draw, I would have picked like 5, 6, something like that. You know, but obviously that's Lady Luck that comes into it. We are where we are. Muzieni, our jockey, I mean, he knows Royal really well. He has ridden him from wide gates before. And Muzz is very, very good at getting a decent position from, a very unfavourable draw. We're going to need a bit of luck there, I think, because normally the horse's running style is to pick him up in the straight. His best wins have come at Turfentine, where there's a much longer straight than there is at Greyville. I think Turfentine's 600, 650, and Greyville's probably about 450 hilt, something like that, you know. Yeah. So his running style have been dropped out and coming back. You know, ideally we'd probably want to be a bit handier. And when we came third last year, we weren't dropped out at the back. We came out of gate 1, I think it was last year, and we were a lot more handy than say if the race had been run over the same distance at Turfentine. So yeah, we're going to need some luck in running. Then last Thursday we had the gallops. Now he's got the odd quirk, this horse, but this is, I think, probably explains the drift. When it was Royal's turn to do the public gallops, which I'm sure some shrewd punters get something out of, but obviously there's a big element of building the hype of the race, and he sort of trotted down towards when it was his turn to start galloping. And then he dug his heels in and looked at the traffic for ages. And when you've got 50 kilograms of Muzieni against 510 kilograms of Royal Victory, there's only one winner. We actually had to let a few other horses go in front of him and take their turn to do the gallops. But then he did gallop. He galloped okay, and he came back sound from that. And he has been well since. I've got a video of him from a couple of days ago where he's running along nicely in his most recent workout. So I think we can draw a line through that, but I can understand why it might have spooked punters a bit, and that is why I would say we're probably looking at 25 to 1 now rather than sort of 16, 18. That I think, I would still have considered a reasonable price. I think if we get some luck in running, we can be involved. But it's a very tough task for the lad.
Right. Well, I'm going to go on to Hilton now. And Hilton, I'm going to ask you to also scan the horses in this sort of area of betting and let me know your thoughts. But let's start with you with Royal Victory. Chris talks about luck in running. What does Royal Victory need? I mean, obviously a bit of luck, but what will suit Royal Victory coming out of that gate? Do you want the pace to be hot if you're jumping from out wide? Or do you almost want them not to break too quickly so you can quickly get around and into a decent position? What would you be looking for if you were Muzieni?
Well, Well, Brent, I think Chris will agree that owning this horse is a white knuckle ride every time he runs, because he just seems to just find traffic problems in every single race. He gets well placed. In the Champions Challenge, I think that he had a very good grounds for that objection. Maybe should have been upheld. He just, every time he runs, somehow he ends up being interfered with, and he could have won another 2 or 3 races easily. Saying that, if you look at the form, it's like Salukwi is at 16-1, Royal Victory is 25-1. They met in the Michael Roberts at Scottsville. Royal Victory finished quite a way ahead again of Salukwi. He's 2 kgs better off. I'll obviously get to Salukwi and his sort of prep. I think he's going to, from that draw, he's going to have to just tuck in. He has to. And then once again, as they turn into home straight, Chris is going to be dragging the couch, because there's going to be 16 horses in front of him, and all he's going to do is hope for some gap. But he represents very, very good value at 25-1. I cannot see how a horse like Salukwi can be 16, and Royal Victory, who is a Group 1 winner and multiple group placed, is somewhere 3/4 of the way down the boards. If he'd been drawn 1-7, I guarantee you'd probably be sitting around 12-14-1 today when we spoke.
Fair comment.
Right, and moving on to the other fancies that you've got there, maybe a bit shorter in the betting than Royal.
I think, well, Chris and I are very much along the same lines with regards to most of those horses. Real Prince, it's a tough one for me. I just don't know why horses like Real Prince and Gladiatorian are experimenting 2,200 meters in the July. If the Real Prince, if they thought he was going to stay, like Chris said, give them a run over 1,800, give them a run over 2,000. Gladiatorian, you can't. His prep has been great, but it's very difficult to come into the July running the distance for the first time and expect to win it. The Real Prince's family, none of them have ever stayed 1,400, 1,200. That's sort of been their distance. There's obviously a lot to like about the way he's running on and the way that he's sort of performing at the moment. He's probably one of the classiest horses in the race. I just have my concerns. We've been in this industry, Chris and I, for years. There was all these boom milers in the old days, the Flight Alerts, the Special Previews, Celtic Groves, National Emblem, even Legal Eagle. All these top milers all came into the July, very fancied as 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and they just got found out in the last couple 100 meters. And I'm concerned that it's going to happen to Real Prince. I have no doubt there's going to be pace. And if there's pace, then that's really going to be a tough one to go from a 1,600 to a 2,200 and win it. I'm not saying he can't win it, and I'm not saying he's not classy. I just think it's a very, very difficult job for him to do that first time over 2,200. My idea of a roughie is definitely on Moana. I'll actually cover on Moana, Salukwi, and Madison Valley together. If Salukwi obviously Salukwi won the 1,900, which everybody says is a great pointer for the July. Truth is, only 2 horses in the last 15 years have won the 1,900 and gone on to win the July. Volta in 2010 and then Bulgarian a couple of years ago. A bigger pointer to the July is the Cup Trial. The last 2 winners, Oriental Charm, Winchester Mansion, they both won the Cup Trial leading into the July. They both won the July. Madison Valley won the Cup Trial. The only problem with Madison Valley is that there was no pace in that race. He kind of had it his own way. If you look at the times, and I know it's always difficult, different conditions, different times, tracks, and all that, but Oriental Charm and Winchester Mansion's 2 wins in the Cup Trial were almost 2 seconds faster than Madison Valley's this year. He's very one-paced. He has a sort of sustained finish. There are horses that are going to be running on a Greyville. I don't know if Madison Valley is going to be quite up for this type of race. I think he ran well, but I think he's sort of more suited. He'll be much better in the Gold Cup. And because there was no pace, you need to look at On Moana's run, because he ran on strongly in that same race by Madison Valley. Yet I think he only took off in the last 400. He found a little bit of traffic problems. 33-1, 40-1 was a massive price. I think he's sort of in his price range now at 14-1, but he's definitely the type of horse that can challenge. I think 8-18 on Moana. I think Chris and I are 100% in the same camp. Gladiatorian, another one who's been running on over 1,800 versus running on over 2-2. completely different story against the grade of horses he's going to be running against. And like I said, Selukwe, I think you need to have class to win the July. I think you can get away with being an above-average horse and win the Met. I think you need class to win the July. I think Selukwe is sort of bordering on above average and classy. I just don't know if that form is going to stand up. And like I said to you, history is against Selukwe. In the last 15 years, only 2 horses have won the 1900. 16-1, and like I said to you, Royal Victory 25-1. The discrepancy in price is too big for me. I would rather have sort of Selukwe at 16s and Royal Victory at 16s. I think if you look at this straight down the line, Royal Victory is a much better value proposition than Selukwe is.
Right, then let's go then further down, Hilton. I'm going to stay with you. I just want to say one thing. I got a WhatsApp from my mom earlier, and she said, please put 100 Rand on my honor for me. So she's got a knack of finding winners now and then again in these sort of races. So perhaps a good sign for on my honor backers. But Hilton, what catches your eye further? Hey?
Either that or you should reply to mom and say, Chris and Hilton like it to save your money.
Yeah, yes. Well, when the three of you are on, we can expect 30-1 come race day, you know, when punters hear that. No, quite the opposite, I'm sure. But Hilt, what do you think then? If you had to look down the field, which are the say, long shots we should be looking maybe either for a big upset or to run into the quartet?
I think you'd have to look at Atticus Finch. You need to give him some respect. Another one, I can't remember the last time in 100 years that a horse has won the Summer Cup and gone out and followed up and winning the July. Alpicha has won both, but he went July Summer Cup. So it's not a very good winter. His form is good. I think he ran 3rd or 4th in July in the Consolation last year. And there was a very good run last time. Also, just thinking, just might be a bit out of the class. Pomodoro's Jet, fantastic prep against much weaker. Okavango, Andrew Fortune, he's going to have his supporters. I think that he might be the type of horse to run on and finish in 4th or 5th. On the Selukwe form, he can't reverse it, but obviously Andrew Fortune can reverse anything if he wants to. And then obviously the filly in the race is going to have a lot of lady support, and that's Rainbow Lorikeet. She's very good. She has been very good, but she's been very good against weaker.
Right, Chris, have a look at the bottom end of the field. What are you looking at for a big run?
Yeah, what threw me a curveball was on Tuesday, See It Again was scratched, and See It Again is been replaced by Litigation, that was the first reserve runner. And See It Again was really growing on me as a good each way shout as well. So that really put me off. And then I'm looking, I'm thinking, okay, because I'm going to play a trifecta. I've got to take See It Again out because that was in my original play. Who do I replace it with? And yeah, look, there's elements of all those down at the lower end of the betting market. That you could say, well, okay, yeah, maybe this one can just run into, into the money, or into the minor placings. I thought maybe Okavango, that could be better. That could be a big player next year. Still think maybe a little bit immature. Confederate, I find hard to weigh up against the opposition that it's got on Saturday. Purple Picture at its best could feature, hasn't been at its best. Litigation, the reserve runner, looks to have a lot to do. The filly, massive respect for the yard, but I couldn't see it. And then Native Ruler, the negative there is that comes out of the widest gate of all. So in the end, I replaced See It Again, the scratching, with the media edge, much higher up that we've spoke about earlier in my play. I'd like to think that I could have found something at 33-1 plus to really give the trifecta dividend, or for those that are playing quartets a boost, but I couldn't find one.
Chris, 2 questions for you, and one of them, I see Son of Raj is a reserve runner. So at what point is the field considered final? In other words, at what point, if there's a scratching, do we just run with one less runner? Do you know the answer to that?
Well, yesterday, See It Again was scratched, abnormal temperature. So the first reserve runner, Litigation, took its place. And let's hope it doesn't, because you got to feel for the connections. You know, all getting excited about a July runner, and then something untoward happens and it's taken away from them. If something went wrong and another horse had to be scratched, I don't know whether Hilt can confirm with me. I think it's the day before the race, the morning before the race. Hilt, is it maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
Midday Friday, basically cut off.
Midday Friday. Okay, yeah. So as long as everybody's found by midday Friday, Son of Raj won't get a run. So you know, you're looking at as you are now. But yeah, you know, no disrespect, I know Son of Raj's connections would love a run, but I wouldn't wish on any of the ones that made the original final field, you know.
Yeah, and I'm just asking from a punter's point of view, because it could be quite disruptive. So that makes sense what you're saying there, sort of midday on the Friday, that you then have a final field. The other thing I noticed,
I would say, Brent, if Son of Raj did get a run, it would be a big price. You know, it wouldn't be prominent.
You'd probably be bottom of the board.
No. Yeah, 100%. No, I'm just like, you know, you said you had See It Again. Obviously, you know, either way, they would have to come out. I'm just, and Hilton, the other thing is I see that the reserves, they obviously will be big prices anyway, but I see they go straight into the outside draw, basically. Am I right? Is that because Son of Raj, or let's just use Litigation, was obviously number 19 because it was first reserve. So you don't replace See It Again's barrier position. You go, everyone moves one in.
No, he'll take See It Again's, which is what, 15, was it? Yeah, he'll come into 15, and then if something else is scratching, then that reserve runner slots into that barrier position.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I just was basing it on the, you know, it said 19, but obviously they just haven't probably updated it yet. But okay, that makes sense. So you kind of know where you draw, and the draws don't get shifted around. Okay, no, excellent, guys. Let's wrap up this July show, but tell us a little bit about your strategy here for the July itself. We will, of course, be having another video where we'll go through some other bets. But what are you going to do on the July? Trifectas, quartets, straight win?
Brent, it's very easy to sit here like we did for the Met and say 8 on 18 hard to beat. I think he is hard to beat, but like I said to you, there's no value now. So I've had my bets already. I took some big price on my honor after that cup trial. Glenn Cotson phoned me straight after the draws, by the way, and I don't know if you know Glenn. He's very enthusiastic about all his horses, but he phoned me after the draw and said, "I've drawn 3. Get on now at 40 to 1. He will not start that price on the day." And I mean, here we are 3 days before, and he's a third of the price. He thinks that the prep has been phenomenal. He's got Samanga Kamala riding. I'm probably going to go maybe floating 8 on 18 on my honor, and then fill up around there and hopefully get 1 or 2 little spooks in between quartet.
Right. And Chris, your strategy on the day, you mentioned the trifecta. You're looking at a big box trifecta there?
Yeah, well, I took the view that 8 on 18, as we said, we all agree. Most people seem to agree. Definitely the horse to beat, but I can't bring myself to back something 14 to 10 to win the July. So I thought, well, let's look at trifectas, and quartet's going to be popular. I'm sure there'll be a big carryover, Hill. There's usually a big carryover for the quartet.
I think they're talking 5 to 6 million rand. Yeah.
Yeah, but I decided with the trifecta, and I thought, well, I'll actually box them rather than sort of put a banker in as 8 on 18, which would then have allowed me to go wider. I picked out 7, and then I had to change it with the scratching of See It Again. But my thoughts were, let me see if I can find this now. Okay, I thought we can go box trifecta, so any order.
Right.
One Oriental Charm, who I think is going to run a big race. Madison Valley, my sort of roughie, although it has been supported for reasons explained earlier. I'll put Madison Valley in. So number 1, number 2. I'm on the same page as Hilt with On My Honor, and he's actually making that grow on me. I'll put the Real Prince in number 5, just in case he does stay. 8 on 18 obviously has to go in, and Royal Victory. And then I replace See It Again with the Make the Cock Horse Immediate Edge. So 7 runners there, full perm, box trifecta, $210. And based on the current betting, I would like number 17 to win from number 2 and number 3 to run third. And then I might not be in work next week, Brent.
Brilliant. Yes. Be great. Would certainly be great to see that. Just to mention what Chris said there, if you take that in a box trifecta, 210 Rand will get you a full share, but you get fractional betting. So you could take it for 21 Rand, for example, and get 10% of the dividend at the end, which is, I think that, came in many years ago, fractional betting, but I think that was one of the best things in terms of giving everyone a shot at taking a share of some of the bigger pools. But gents, that brings us to the end of the July show. We'll be chatting fairly shortly to run through the rest of the card. But just want to say, Chris, first of all, to you, thanks very much. And we're all holding thumbs for Royal Victory. I tend to get very excited in these races. And let's hope I'm standing up shouting at the screen as Royal Victory comes down. Will you be watching at home, or are you going to be popping to the pub for this one?
Watching at home. There's every chance I could be in the pub late morning just to calm the nerves. Yeah.
And if Royal Victory wins, would you say there's every chance you could be in the pub late evening?
Afterwards, yeah. Let's hope so, yeah. If I'm speaking to you from the pub at 4:30, then it's gone well.
If Royal Victory
wins, Hills, where are you going to be watching the race?
I think if Royal Victory wins, Chris will be in an ambulance pub at night. Yeah, we're doing a quiet one this year. It's just myself, Lee, a couple of friends at home. We just gonna have a small little family day. And,
excellent.
Much safer than Chris's strategy.
Well, yeah, we'll be doing the traditional July Day. I think I've mentioned before, my kids were about 14 years old when they found out that July Day wasn't a public holiday celebrated by everyone in the country. And it started off as students getting together at my parents' place. And now, the list sort of people leave the country and then they get replaced and this and that. But we have a great gathering. It's also, this, as I said earlier, this Tour de France starts. It's going to probably be a sprint stage. And then we got the box against Italy from Loftus as well. But thanks, everyone. Thanks to both my guests there. Enjoy the July. There are a few links down below if you need to get onto the Good for the Game website. There's also my newsletter, which goes out, which I must say is rugby-based. But this week we'll certainly have some horse racing in as well. Thanks a lot. And remember to catch the preview of all 12 races.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Hilton.
Thanks, Brent.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Chris.